and welcome to this week's Illinois Wesleyan Titan Coaches Show. I'm Eric Stock from WJBC Radio, joined by Titan men's head basketball coach Ron Rose. Coach, good to have you back.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Doing well. So one game last week and a close victory over North Park, a game in which your team is up by some 15 points late, but one individual player almost single-handedly pulled that victory away from you in Colin Lake, ended up scoring their last 24 points in the last 8 minutes of the game. How, looking back on it, do you feel there's anything that your team could have done differently or could have better executed to deliver that victory, or is that just a guy having an insane night?
Well, no, there's always something you can do. And, you know, we helped him on the offensive end in the fact that as you go back over the film, really he was having a very good game. I think he had maybe 28 points with 4 minutes to go.
Yep.
So which is still a very good basketball game. Now, what he ended up with is insane in terms of numbers. But offensively, as you looked over it, we had a couple turnovers. We missed the front end of free throws. And then we missed some really, really good shots where, you know, if you don't combine all those things offensively, now you're up 20-something with 3 minutes to go, and the coach probably takes them out, and it doesn't happen that way. Unfortunately, you know, you miss a shot, they come down, hit a three, now it's 12, you turn the ball over, they get to the free throw line, and suddenly it's a 10-point game with a couple minutes to go, and anything can happen. So, yeah, that's another good experience for our team. Certainly down the stretch, you got to make free throws. We've got good free throw shooters. We just didn't happen to hit them all. We had some great looks from good shooters that you'd normally expect to make. They didn't go in. You know, a couple of the lazy turnovers at the end are probably the biggest concern we have. And then we, you know, as a coaching staff, we've got to make sure we scheme a little bit better if a player is getting going like he is, to try to get the ball out of his hands.
Another sign, I suppose, of how tough it is to win on the road in the CCIW, even when you think it's all going your way.
Yeah, you know, it is tough. You know, if you look at each of the venues, they all bring their unique challenges. And the Cracker Box at North Park has always been a tough place to play. And, you know, feel fortunate to get out with a win and move on.
But you have had success on the road this year, particularly in Chicago, winning at North Central, winning at Wheaton, winning at North Park, outside of conference, winning against the University of Chicago. What do you think the reason for that has been, as opposed to previous years with maybe younger teams?
Well, this is a more veteran group. You know, we start 3 junior guards, a senior, you know, and Jalen Beasley at the 4. So I think having upperclassmen helps. This group has a mental toughness element about them. You see it in the weight room. You see it at practice. It's guys that like to compete. And I think if you like to compete and you love basketball, that goes a long way when you get on the road. It doesn't matter where you're at. You're playing the game.
Playing back at Shirk Center on Wednesday night, Milliken up next. Milliken, a very different team than the one that your team faced last year. New coach and sort of an overhauled roster this year.
Yeah, completely different. The rosters, Mark Shearer, former coach at Elmhurst, gets the job and really overhauls the whole roster. There's 3 or 4 guys from last year's roster and 3 or 4 guys that are contributing. But he brought in a number of, I think, 6 junior college players. So the unique thing about them is he came in and brought in upperclassmen. So even though the roster's different, it's not like they're rebuilding with freshmen and sophomores. So you're playing a veteran group that's played college basketball for 2 years, now going on 3. They're very athletic. You know, one of the guys from last year's team, Jordan Cunningham, big, strong kid inside. Zach Fisher is an outstanding shooter. He was on the team last year. And then you supplement them, surround them with some terrific athletes. And the thing about Mark Shearer, you know, when you look at his Elmhurst teams, they always defended and they always rebounded. And then you couple that with the roster that he's put together with athleticism, and they've been very competitive.
Does that make it harder to scout a team that has changed so dramatically, or do you sort of look to the coach's former tendencies, as you had alluded to when he was
Well, we certainly went back and looked at our old scouting reports from when Coach Shearer was at Elmhurst, and there are a lot of similarities. The players are a little different, you know, so he's he's twisted exactly some of the schemes that he did, but that gave you a little idea as you started watching film. In today's age of film, you know, we've got every single one of Milliken's games this year, every single game of their games broken down, and so the wealth of information you have on each other is like no other time in basketball. So there are no surprises in terms of what they're doing or what we're doing. It really comes down to executing.
But that's like finding needle in a haystack too, though. Where's the aha moment? That's how we stop this team. It's not there, is it?
You know, sometimes it's just so much information, and as a coach, it's tough because if you can watch every one of their games, you feel like you should watch every one of their games just to make sure. And physically, you can't do that. So you have to pick and choose and figure out which games are most beneficial. And I tell you, they are, you know, any CCIW team's tough. They come in here, we better be ready to go tonight.
And then on the road on Saturday at Carroll. So far undefeated in 2018, and I hope to keep it rolling. I wish you best of luck this week, Coach.
Thanks, Eric.